The date is March 11, 2024. The time is 2:02 p.m. It's a reference case number 24001896. Person present or myself to
Hello?
Hi, is this Tatiana and Tyler?
Yes.
Okay. Once again, appreciate you taking my call this afternoon. So, as you're well aware, I got myself and my partner here, Detective Smallwood. We are working the case in reference to Madeline.
Yes.
All right. So, I know, Tatiana, you're not biologically involved, but Tyler is. So I'm going to ask a majority of my questions. I need him to answer instead of you. Is that okay?
Okay.
Okay, perfect. Tyler, can you spell your first and last name for me?
Yes, sir. My first name is Tyler, Tyler.
Okay.
My last name is Wallace, Wallace.
Okay, and your telephone number? Got it. Okay, so once again, first of all, I want to express our condolences to you.
Thank you, sir.
I know it's a difficult time for you and everybody else that's involved, so some of these questions may be difficult for you to answer, but I want you to do your best you can, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, so Tyler, you are Madeline's biological father, is that correct?
Yes, sir. I am her biological father.
Okay, when were you and Jennifer together?
Are you asking our physical time or like relationship time?
Yeah, relationship time.
We dated when I was 16. I believe we were together for roughly 3 years. And then we ended up having an encounter in 2009 from which Maddie was born.
Okay.
We were not together at the time. I was with my wife. We were engaged. Well, we weren't engaged yet, but it was around that time.
Got it. Okay. Were you in Florida here, or where were you guys at?
I was, at the time of our dating, so when I was 16 years of age and such, we would have been in Florida around Orlando and Kissimmee.
Okay.
I was living with my parents at the time. She was living with hers. At the time of our second encounter in 2009, I would have been stationed, I believe, in Baltimore, Maryland, doing training, and then in Kings Bay, Georgia Naval Base is where I was stationed for my duty station, and I encountered her there.
Okay. Did she live up there or just come to visit? How did that come about?
She was visiting. Our initial encounter in 2009, she was living in New York with her father at the time. I had just gone through boot camp, and we had connected, I believe, on MySpace. And then she ended up visiting me and a group of my Marines around November, and I only know it was that time because it was around the Marine Corps ball, so I have something to tie it to. I'm actually pretty wishy-washy with time, but that was around the period that our encounter would have occurred.
Got it.
I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. Can you reframe or if I answered that, let me know what.
No, yeah, you're good. So you guys weren't actually dating at the time she was conceived, is that correct?
Yes, sir, correct.
Okay. How much involvement have you had in Maddie's life?
I have tried to maintain civil connections with the mother. I would say prior to the last 2 years, I normally got to see my daughter about once a year. But I was involved in a legal case in which I had to go to prison for 2 months due to some stuff that occurred in the Marine Corps in 2009. The short version of the story there is that I had some friends, in air quotes, who stole ammunition from the government, and then when an investigation came out from that, I was contacted by NCIS. I rendezvoused with them. I provided information, and then due to the nature of the case, I was required to spend 2 months in prison in the Federal Detention Center in Houston, Texas. And I just never financially recovered from that. So it's like it was 2 years since I got to see Maddie, and the last time I saw her was October of last year.
And where were you then? Did you come to Florida, or?
she came to Texas.
Maddie was sent to visit us in Texas. She traveled unattended. I received her at the airport.
Okay. How would you describe the relationship between you and Jennifer right now?
I am not contacting Jennifer, and I desire to receive updates outside of the family. All the information I have regarding my daughter has been passed to me through her family, and I just...
But I get that, but what was your guys' relationship leading up to all of this?
I tried to talk with Jennifer as little as possible. There was a period when Maddie was first born that Jennifer seemed pretty intent on breaking up my marriage with my wife, and so in the nature of making everybody happy, I just talked to Jennifer as little as possible, which is why I had so little contact with Maddie growing up. I only just recently started reaching out to Maddie through, like, Skype and stuff, where she was able to, or not Skype, excuse me, what did we use? I think we used, like, Instagram or FaceTime, but we would use, like, video chats and voice chat to start talking. And so I was starting to get a deeper relationship with Maddie, and then this occurred.
Okay. So you say you contacted her through social media. What do you list yourself on different social media accounts? What is your, like, screen names?
My screen names?
Yeah.
Usually my screen names will all be a variation of my email. I can behind it. But I have, like, on Facebook it just says my normal name. I believe Instagram I come up as, like, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm bad at managing all of my social media accounts. I'm locked out of, like, half of them right now.
Okay. All right. All right, so you said you and Jennifer, you haven't had that cordial relationship. So, but you started with...
I would say our relationship has been cordial, but it is a surface-level cordialness maintained on our side to guarantee access with Maddie, because I was never able to afford to go to court to get my custodial rights established with her.
Okay. And you said you started reaching back out to Maddie last year on a more consistent basis?
Yes, sir. She was coming up on the age of 13, and so the last time I had stayed when she had visited us in October, I was basically talking to her about how she would feel about coming to live with us in Texas, if that was something she would be interested in, and she expressed that she would be interested, but she didn't say why or what. We just kind of left it at that, and it was something I was going to talk to Jennifer about, but just hadn't yet.
Okay. How was Madeline when she come to see you in October?
She seemed to be in very good spirits, but a thing I kept saying was that I don't know if this will make sense to you, but I can give you the context if you need it. She reminded me of a character from a show called Euphoria, in the sense that there was just an emotional weight about her that I did not understand what was the cause. It just seemed like she was dealing with stuff that a 12-year-old girl shouldn't deal with, but I didn't get to see her enough to really pry, and so I was just trying to ask her, like, surface-level comfort questions to build a relationship with her, but I had no clue anything was going on at that time.
Got it. How long was she out there visiting you?
She was with us for 4 days in October.
Okay. Have you talked to her since October?
I had a couple of Instagram communications with her since then. I talked to her, I believe, once or twice on video chat. And I can't remember the exact dates, but I have, just so you know, I have left all of my social media untouched since the search turned into a verification that she was in fact dead, just in case any of my social medias can be useful to you guys.
Okay. At the end, I'm going to give you my email address. If you can just send me screenshots of your conversations with Maddie or any that you may have had with Jennifer.
Yes, let me write that down real quick. Screenshots of conversations with Maddie or Jennifer.
Yeah.
Is there anything in specific you're looking for?
Nope, just all your conversations. That'd be great.
Say that one more time.
Just all of the conversations you've had with Maddie.
Yeah, got it.
And then if you've had some with Jennifer, those as well.
Roger.
So how did you come about to hear what happened with Maddie?
It was, hold on, let me pull up my phone so I can find the exact day. Give me 1 second. Monday, February 26th, or possibly, it was either the 25th or the 26th. I had just worked a shift in Texas, in Cypress, Texas, at my place of employment, which is Imperial Vapor Company. And the time on deck was around 4 or 5. The time on deck when I received the call was around 4 or 5 p.m. Interrupted. Jennifer called me and said that she had been informed by the school that Maddie never arrived at the school that day. And I asked Jennifer what she knew at that moment. She seemed distressed, but I told her, because she was trying to give me a bunch of stories about who had taken who where, and I said, I don't care about details right now. I need to know what you know. Where is Maddie? She did not know. And I said, how long has she been missing? And she said, since this morning. And then I said, okay, I need you to get in contact with the police department if you haven't already, and I would like you to continue to update me. And then she said, okay. And then she had mentioned that it was her birthday, and then when Jennifer and I were talking, I had started to mention the statistics of things like sex trafficking in Florida. I know that Houston and Florida are high on sex trafficking, so I was throwing out scenarios of what we should be looking for. Did somebody grab Maddie? Was there videos out there? Could we see footage? And Jennifer was, I believe, writing some of this down. I don't know. But she was trying to, it appeared she was giving me whatever details she could. But then after that, I went home and waited with my wife. I let my wife know Maddie was missing. We started making some social media posts to spread the word. And then on about day 2, or day 3, I just couldn't wait anymore. In Texas, I felt really hopeless, and so I is like a lifelong friend of mine. He lives about 12 down. It was the 3rd day after I found out, though, and I stayed with my friend Lynn Bradshaw, who is like a lifelong friend of mine. He lives about 20 minutes away from the area where Maddie was taken. I can pause now if you have any questions, or I can keep going.
No, you keep going.
It's fresh in my mind, though.
Yeah, keep going.
So at the time when I arrived at Lynn's, my initial first thought was, I'm going to fucking go out to the last known GPS location. Jennifer had sent me like a pin or a GPS location of where Maddie's disappearance would happen. And at that point, Lynn and I had basically discussed the pros and cons of going to look for myself, the pros being that it would make it feel like I was doing something, the cons being that I really had no idea what I was looking for. And then that's when we started seeing like Twitter posts from the Kissimmee and various police departments saying, please do not engage in any public searching. We are currently working on this. And so I feel like I just knew in my heart that shit was going bad. I was staying with Lynn to help me kind of keep my emotions in check, and just watching social media, refreshing every so often to see if any news articles had come out. A bunch of my friends flew in from out of town, so I was visited by Josh Losey, who flew in from Indiana. He's been friends with me as long as Lynn. I was visited by my friend Stephanie, Elaine, Ashley, who flew in from Seattle. They both stayed with me for a couple of days at Len's place. And then they flew out. And then my wife, Tatiana, flew in. I'm losing, at this point, I lose track of which days or when because it just all kind of blends together. But I took notes. So if you need specific dates of when I was interacting with people, I should be able to dig that up. It's not off the top of my head.
Okay.
So...
Did you have any,
I believe it was the night I arrived at Florida that Len and I got confirmation that Stephan and that he had been arrested and that there was sexual abuse tied into this whole thing.
And how did you hear that?
I honestly can't remember when I finally could. I had been trying to not listen to the news, so I'm not sure when I actually finally concluded that Maddie was dead. I can't remember if it was reading an article or if I had gotten a call. Maybe you called me. I don't really remember who told me. I just remember kind of the day that it happened.
Okay, how did you hear the news about him being arrested? Did Jennifer tell you, or did you see it on the news?
I was informed of Stephan being arrested by Tati. Who told you?
And then the news told me.
Okay.
The press conference.
All right. When you were here, did you and Jennifer see each other?
The only time I saw Jennifer was when I made an appearance for, I'm not sure if it was an official funeral, but I have pictures from the location and the name of the funeral house. It was a funeral house. They say that Maddie is going to be cremated in the next couple of weeks, but there was a closed casket that Jennifer's family was there, and I arrived with my separate party. I believe all interactions between me and Jennifer happened on a camera in the main thing of the funeral home. I did not speak with her anywhere else but in the funeral home. I hugged a few of her family members, and I hugged her at one point, but we shared very few words, and I was not a big fan of the hug. It was more for social purposes. But
yeah, I mean, in all honesty, our main focus right now is Maddie. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Not the relationship you and Jennifer have or have not had or whatever. That's so. I don't know if some of these questions are difficult because Tatiana is listening or whatever, but I don't want to. Like I said, our main focus right now is Maddie. So.
Yes, sir. The hardest thing has already happened, which is she's dead. And I am not okay with that, but for the purpose of cooperation and for the purpose of your investigation, I'm willing to go through emotional pain to get there. So just please continue asking what you need, and I will keep you apprised of my emotional condition.
No, I appreciate it. Okay, did you and Jennifer talk about what may or may not have happened to Maddie?
Only on the initial phone call when I threw out a couple of scenarios trying to figure out where to even start looking for myself. After that phone call was pretty much minimized between me and Jennifer. I know at some point she had her phone taken and contacted me through an alternate phone number to provide me information of where, like, the funeral home was. So I was in text communication with her infrequently throughout my stay in Orlando for, like, stuff like that. I have attempted to comfort her before I realized that Maddie was dead, but that I don't think I was in Florida. That was over the phone when I was like, hey, this isn't your fault, that kind of stuff. But it's one of those things where as more and more information comes out between you and me, I'm becoming aware. I don't know what Jennifer did or didn't know. I don't know if she was aware of this happening or not, and the context of if she knew and was enabling, or if she is as much of a victim as Maddie, will dictate how comfortable I am having any frankly, I'm not interested in contacting her family ever again anyways, but, like, it's one of those, if Jennifer is much as a victim of this as I am, I'm content to just let them live their life in privacy, but I swear to fucking God, if I find out Jennifer was involved and enabled this, I will take whatever legal action I can.
Okay.
So I just need a second. I'm sorry, I'm ramping up, I just need a second. Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Do you think it was normal for Jennifer to call you when she went missing? Or did that seem kind of out of the blue because you guys haven't had much communication?
Jennifer almost never tells me anything. I think the only reason she told me is because she realized that I was going to find out eventually.
Okay.
But I can't confirm or deny that. That's just me speculating.
Okay. Has she told you in the past what any issues that Maddie may have had or has not had, like parenting stuff? Or?
About 2 years ago when I was in prison is when I heard that Maddie had received a diagnosis for autism, which is something that I always thought that maybe I dealt with, autistic traits that I have. And the short version of the story here is I believe my daughter did not have autism, and I believe I don't have autism. I believe we have autistic traits that are symptoms of PTSD. And realizing that it wasn't a genetic autistic trait that I passed on to Maddie, it was probably her having similar developmental conditions that I had as a child that I was recognizing in her. And that's real fucking hard to deal with, man.
Okay.
I wish I had seen the signs, but I just didn't. I was just trying to get a relationship with Maddie on the back end. I've been so patient waiting to have my turn with my little girl. And then this shit happens and I just don't know what to think. I'm just processing. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do.
All right. Have you ever met Jennifer's boyfriend, Stephan?
I don't think so. I think I've only ever seen pictures of him on Instagram. I'm trying to remember that. I didn't remember when Stephan came into Jennifer's life, but I've done some research on Reddit, and according to a local post that I found, it looks like he may have entered her life around 2018, which I would have still been in Kansas at that time. I do remember talking to Jennifer about Stephan and being like, hey, I'm low-key uncomfortable with you just bringing a guy around my kid, but that was one of those things where it's like I didn't really feel like I had a choice. I didn't really feel like I had to say. Jennifer always seemed pretty comfortable with Stephan. I knew he was a biomechanical engineer from what Jennifer told me, which always weirded me out on what the fuck would a biomechanical engineer want with Jennifer. Like, I'm not saying she's a terrible person, but I just didn't see what traits of her would attract somebody like that. And so I do have a working theory with what I think happened. I am aware that this is all speculation, but if you'd like to hear that, I will share with you what I suspect may have happened.
Okay. What do you think happened?
So the only thing that makes sense to me at this point is I've heard stories that possibly Stephan had stabbed somebody when he was 14 and that his dad had moved him across country. I've heard an article that maybe a former roommate had seen on Stephan's computer and that Stephan's mother had paid off the roommate. I don't know the veracity of those things, but those are what got me thinking on the mindset of, okay, so if his family moved him to avoid legal consequences for deviant behavior in the past, and he claims he worked at Disney, which I know Jennifer has always been around Disney, and so I'm thinking to myself, what would a predator do to find access to a child? Maybe they would go get a job at some place like Disney where there's high access passively to children and just observe. And then when he located a child that was of his taste, maybe he saw that Maddie was approaching Jennifer regularly, introduced himself. It has always been my opinion that Jennifer has not been as attentive of a mother as I would like. I feel like my daughter got passed around Jennifer's family for things like daycare quite often, and that whenever I wanted to get into contact with Maddie, it was difficult because I never knew when she was going to be home or available. And I think that maybe Stephan saw that as a predator and saw that that was a pretty easy environment to insert himself into their life. I then suspect he set up a... And at what point I become curious watching shows like Dexter or things like that is, okay, what fucked up their schedule then? How did he go from this patient calculating monster who did all of these things to being emotionally incompetent and disposing of a body off the side of a fucking road? I just don't understand what changed their behavior. And I say there because I started watching it took me a couple of days to have the emotional space, but I started watching interviews of them when they were reaching out to the news outlets. Jennifer told me they were going to reach out to the news outlets when Maddie was missing, so I knew she had done that, but I just hadn't watched the interviews. And when I watched the interviews, Stephan is in a couple of them, and I was watching his body language, but then because I was doing that and some YouTube videos about body language came out, I was looking at Jennifer's body language, and it's like, I saw very strong emotions in her, but they seemed like anxiety, like not grief, not she was waiting at home while our daughter was still missing. Like that, I literally can't wrap my brain around that. It doesn't make sense to me. And so what I suspect happened is something that they couldn't avoid, something like maybe or something, and they realized like, oh fuck, we can't get an abortion, you can't hide this. Maybe they did something. I don't know if Jennifer was involved or wasn't. Maybe Stephan did all this on his own and she just found out. That's where my head is at, and that's why I was like, you know what, I think I want to set up separate updates with the police department, because I just don't know. I just don't like the fact that everything I know about my daughter has been filtered through that family to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, that's my piece.
That's okay. Have you, like, when you and Jennifer were together, was she on any kind of medication or anything like that, or do you know if she's been on any medication since?
She was never open with me when we were together. I do know that since we dated, she's been diagnosed with bipolar. I don't know what medication she's currently on, but I know that she's been on medications as hardcore as lithium in the past.
Okay. What about Maddie?
I don't remember the names of the medications, but I was informed when Maddie came to visit me that she was on antidepressants, anti-anxiety medication. Do you know the names of them?
Yes, hydroxyzine was one of them. She would take at night. I didn't feel comfortable giving because I take hydroxyzine to go to sleep, and I only and so I was only one while she was here with us visiting. The other one was Miralax, so she could go to the restroom regularly.
Okay. Now, when you were giving her the medication to help her sleep, did she have a prescription bottle with her?
Yes, there's a prescription bottle.
And on the prescription, did it say? So that's what the doctor had prescribed her?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Tyler, did you have any discussions with Jennifer about medicine that Maddie was taking?
Never.
Okay.
Did I remember? I don't think Jennifer ever really told me about their visits. It was just that when I was responsible for Maddie, she would rattle off a list of what I was responsible to make sure she got.
Okay. And when Maddie come to visit you, what were the sleeping arrangements like?
Maddie slept in the bed with Topsy. I wanted to sleep with them and kind of make a little Maddie sandwich, and she was not very keen on that idea, so she made sure that I slept on the couch. Sometimes we'd cuddle, but that was the sleeping arrangements. Is usually she'd sleep in the bedroom with Topsy, and I'd sleep on the couch.
Okay, whose idea was it to have what you referred to as like the Maddie sandwich? Who wasn't uncomfortable with it, Tatiana or Maddie?
I believe it was Maddie who was uncomfortable with it. She didn't straight up say, I don't want to cuddle, but she would cuddle with me when it was just me and her, and I believe she'd cuddle with you when it was just you and her, but when we were together, she would become a little bit more shy, is the word I would use.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, when she would sleep at night, me having children myself, sometimes children, they kind of flop all over the place when they're sleeping. Did you notice anything like that with Maddie?
Yes, I will say I also sleep like that, and Tati had commented on how Maddie sleeps just like me. I very much thrash a lot, and Maddie was a kicker and a mover and a thrasher.
Okay, did it seem like she got good night's sleep, or she was up and down?
Once I gave her the medicine, she was fine. Like, she would go to sleep.
Without the medication, she was more like me, though, where insomnia would set in, and in the evening, our emotions would... She literally told me one night, "I'm so sorry, my medication is wearing off. I'm having big mood swings. They're crazy."
And so, yes, I'd wake up with like an elbow in my face, but to get her up in the morning was the issue, because she never wanted to get up on like the first shake or not even the second. So I just chalked it up to her being more like Tyler, because it takes him a while to get up in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
But
No, you think it's the medication?
yeah.
All right. Do you know? You may not know this. Do you know if Jennifer was taking that same type of medicine?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Does she talk about her relationship with Jen and her relationship with Stephan?
I asked her if her mother and Stephen were still together, and she says no, they're not together. She, loved her mom, because every time I would make a little bit of a snarky comment, she would correct me and say everybody's beautiful in their own way. And we never really talked about Stephen when she was around, just to say that they weren't together.
How was her demeanor when she answered that?
It was kind of well, they're not together, whatever. Just
Would you call that dismissive?
dismissive, yeah.
Okay, so upset or angry or just kind of how would
What kind of
you?
emotional reaction did she seem? Did she seem like she was uncomfortable? Did she seem, how did she seem to you?
She didn't. She just seemed like she was just casually talking to me. It wasn't a angry emotion or anything like that.
That's kind of the problem. Is I would ask surface level questions on if she was happy, but she always answered pretty vaguely, and so I just truly never knew anything was wrong. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead. Keep talking. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
So she was just kind of just dismissive. We were just talking oh yeah, they're not together anymore. And I'm okay.
Okay. I know hindsight is 2020, and you guys kind of only had a couple interactions with her yearly. But did you see any change in her personality over the last couple years? Do you anything that stands out?
I felt like the last time we met in October was the only time we ever really saw each other, is how I would describe it. Well, I'm being metaphorical when I say I saw her for the first time and she saw me for the first time, and we really felt like we connected. Other than that, it's always been she hasn't felt I'm sorry, this is just father talk, but it's I've been watching her grow, but she hasn't felt like a whole person with her own questions and curiosity and motivations until the last time I saw her. She seemed more an adult than a child, and it's not that it bothered me, it's just that it made me curious on what caused the sudden change in growth. She went from being a silly little girl to being what I would describe as a Euphoria character, which Euphoria is a show all about kids who are dealing with crazy levels of trauma.
You're referring to the show with
I think her name is Zendaya.
Zendaya, yes. Okay.
And yeah, I watched that show recently with my wife, and then when my daughter came to this, I couldn't stop thinking about that show. Just because I don't know how to explain it. These young girls have this 1,000-mile look on their face that I would expect out of Vietnam veterans, not fucking little girls. I'm not saying that there wasn't trauma there. I'm saying as a man who has experienced trauma, that's what confuses me, is how so many young girls have that look in their eyes of
How often did you have contact with Maddie prior to October?
how often. It was infrequent, unfortunately. I struggle with ADHD, and so did Maddie, and what that looks like for us is really bad time blindness and realizing you haven't talked to people for months and then reaching out awkwardly and trying to.
I would text her.
How often?
I've
How often
always
would you
struggled
text
with
her?
regular communication, and earlier in Maddie's life, Jennifer used to give me really big issues about that, and then I thought Jennifer was growing as a person because I couldn't tell you when, but just sometime halfway through Maddie's life, Jennifer just became a lot less judgmental and mean about it. She was just like, hey, I get it. You have stuff going on. We have stuff going on. And so I felt like that was us getting close. Like, I felt like that was Jennifer understanding us more at the time, but now I'm curious.
All right, but going back to, you say it's infrequent on how many times you spoke with Maddie. So are we talking once a month?
Some weeks we would talk every day just because our schedules allowed us, and then sometimes we would go, I think, a couple of months without really interacting in any way.
Okay.
And that was pretty typical of our relationship. Just very high intensity communication for a time, and then kind of dormancy.
Gotcha. Okay. All right, so I will do my best to keep you abreast of this investigation. Whatever information I share with Jennifer, I will share with you. This is a pretty high-profile case, as you can tell by it's made national news and stuff like that. So the stuff that we release is going to be very minimal. And it's not to say anything against you and or Jennifer. It's just when we do these types of investigations, we keep a lot of stuff close-knit just because you have, if you want to quote-unquote, armchair quarterbacks that look into these things, and we don't need that happening. So,
acknowledged. That's exactly why I stopped coming up with my own scenarios and wanted to reach out to you, as I realized I was myself joining in on the armchair quarterbacking, and that is very much not what we want to do in this situation.
Yeah. So you may hear from me on a daily basis, or you may hear from, it may be a few days or a week or so before I contact you again, okay?
Completely understood, sir. Thank you.
All right. Do you have any questions for us that we might be able to answer for you?
Give me a minute to think. Sorry. You may ask whatever you have.
Would it be possible we could reach out to a victim service advocate?
Yes, I will take your number down, and I will have our victim advocate reach out to you.
Okay, because the press is kind of getting to the point where they're contacting us every day.
So my question to you is, I was, until recently, physically in Orlando. I was originally going to try to make myself physically available to you guys, but frankly, the emotional weight was tearing up my friends' lives, too. This is really heavy shit, and I'm just trying to take care of my family and myself. So my question to you is, do we need to be ready to come down there at some time, or are we trying to kind of make our way back to Texas at this point? I don't know what I should be doing in this case.
Yeah, you can go back to Texas. If we need you, or if we need to become face-to-face with you to gather more information, something like that, we will make a trip out to see you.
Okay, outstanding. In the meantime, would it be acceptable behavior if I were to, say, travel to visit my parents in Kansas, or is that something you would advise against at this time?
No, absolutely.
My parents haven't been able to come down to Florida to grieve with us, so that was kind of my, not this week, but in a month I intend to visit my parents in Kansas. Should that be acceptable?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
As for the press, I know you said the press has been contacting you. Once again, you're adults. I can't tell you what or what not to do. Only thing I can do.
Anybody at this point in time. We'll talk with victims advocates and legal representation to figure out if that's in the case's best interest at any point. But I have no horse in this race. I'm content to just stay off of the pages and grieve in private.
Okay, so what I would do though is any press that reaches out to you or something like that, if you do not want to talk to them, you can always defer them to our police department. And our public information officer will handle all those requests.
I appreciate that. I will direct any further people that reach out through you guys.
Okay.
Is there a number, or in fact, if I was...
Yeah, you can go back to Texas. If we need you, or if we need to become face-to-face with you to gather more information, something like that, we will make a trip out to see you.
Okay, outstanding. In the meantime, would it be acceptable behavior if I were to, say, travel to visit my parents in Kansas, or is that something you would advise against at this time?
No, absolutely.
My parents haven't been able to come down to Florida to grieve with us. So that was kind of my, like, not this week, but in a month I intend to visit my parents in Kansas. Should that be acceptable?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
As for the press, I know you said the press has been contacting you. Once again, you're adults. I can't tell you what or what not to do. Only
We're
thing
not
I can
talking with
do.
anybody at this point in time. We'll talk with victims advocates and legal representation to figure out if that's in the case's best interest at any point. But I have no horse in this race. I'm content to just stay off of the pages and grieve in private.
Okay, so what I would do though is any press that reaches out to you or something like that, if you do not want to talk to them, you can always defer them to our police department, and our public information officer will handle all those
I
requests.
appreciate that. I will direct any further people that reach out through you guys.
Okay.
Is there a number, or in fact, if I was going to, what should I say when I'm directing them? Is there a number or an email I should give them?
Just tell them no comment. You can contact the Kissimmee Police Department. That's all you got to say.
No comment. Let's contact Kissimmee Police Department. Thank you so much.
You got it. And I will be in touch with you, like I said, in the next few days. I'll probably reach back out to you.
Outstanding. I appreciate that.
All right. Yes, sir. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you. You too.
All right. We're going to conclude this interview at 2:42 p.m.